is the moment you've been waiting for. It's a conversation that must be had today and not tomorrow. Welcome to another episode of I'm Listening, I'm Ready with your host, Andrew E. Guy. Let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andrew E. Guy with another episode of ILIRPODCAST. I'm listening and I am ready. Now, it's a podcast is dedicated for those who are on the go. Whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea, this is me, Andrew E. Guy in the MORNING. I am really excited. Now, you know, as always, every week, we're telling you, we are bringing it to you. We're bringing it to show with the interesting people, the people that are making things happen, whether it's in business, whether it's in health, whether it's well-being, whether it's in the financial industry. We are bringing those individuals who are expert in their own right, thought leaders that are turning the world upside down. My next guest, she is a businesswoman, a government contract negotiator. She's a public speaker. She's an author. There is so much to talk about right here. As we go through the show, I will read you a little bit more of the bio. It's too long. Accomplishment is too long to wrap up in just 10 seconds. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor. Miss Doctor, please say hi to the people.
Hello. Hi.
How you doing today?
Thank you. I am doing well. Thank you so very much for a warm introduction.
Yes, it was. Hey, you have a warm spirit. The introduction merits the person.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the show. You had a fantastic day going so far?
Absolutely.
Yes, wonderful. Now, you know, before I get into the discussion and the questions and everything, because we got quite a bit to talk about, it's going to be a fantastic conversation. Why don't you just tell the people, like, kind of who you are, you know, a little bit more about yourself so they can get warm up to you before we get into the thick of it. All right. So, Ms. Doctors, go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Absolutely. So my name is Corretta Leonnette Doctor, just like you said. Thank you for that. I was born and raised in South Carolina, and I left South Carolina right after high school, a couple of years after high school. I joined the military, United States Army. I served just under 10 years in the Army on active duty. I spent only 2 duty stations, Virginia and Germany. Shortly after that, I entered into corporate America. I just carried over my military field of procurement and material control. And I went into government purchasing, procurement, supply chain, and contract negotiations. From there, approximately 20 years of that, I decided to do just what most people do, is step out into that entrepreneurial branch, and wanted to be able to become a voice that I never had before. You know, when you're in the military, your voice is limited, and you're a child, your voice is limited. So I had a whole lot to say. And, you know, coming through the days of entrepreneurship, I ended up writing a book, a couple of books, and now I'm at the stage where I'm setting for my retirement. I am 50 this year.
You don't look like
it. Yes, 50, 50. Wow, the big Hawaii 50. I do have one daughter. She will be 32 soon. I have 5 beautiful grandchildren. And I am just living the life. I have a dog. I'm a fur mama, is that what they call us? Fur baby. And pretty much that's my simple life. I'm enjoying my days.
Awesome. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Miss Doctors, Miss Corretta Leonnette. Make sure I put the whole thing there, Leonnette Doctors. Now, very interesting name. Where did the name Doctor came about?
Well, it's my name. So, my mother, you know, I was born in 1970. Yes. And during that time, I was actually given up for adoption. And so Doctor, D-O-C-T-O-R, is the family name that adopted me. Wow. And so I grew up in a small community where everybody's last name was pretty much Doctor. So it wasn't anything different or unique. It was just regular. So when other people hear it, like, oh my goodness. But to me, it's just a typical name. So that's my name. And I'm not married. So that's my name. I had all my life.
When I think about names, I'm one of those individuals who grew up with grandma. Grandma says, you know what, there is power in a name. And she said it for many, many, many years. But I think that that name speaks a lot of volume. The word doctor, in Latin term means to teach. That's really what it means, right? And it goes back to what you're doing nowadays. You're speaking, you are teaching, you're writing books, you are doing amazing things. So you're actually living up to the name of doctor. So I find that was very interesting. Talk to me a little bit about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Absolutely, AFSP. So what I do, when I was living in the state of New Jersey, I became very, very familiar with the organization because I once needed them. Okay. And so what better way to talk about something than to go first and share your experiences. Right. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention stood in a gap for me when I needed them most. I am a failed suicide attempt survivor, meaning that I survived an attempt to end my own life. And when I realized that there was such an organization, I joined and I became one with the organization. I started getting trainings and going around and participating in the community walks and doing what I could to help others see their way out of the darkness.
When you first got in, do you feel a sense of responsibility to learn as much so you can help more people?
So it wasn't as much about learning more. It was about learning how to verbalize what I already knew. Okay. It was learning how to take the goodness. Not everybody who attempts to end their life is a bad person. Mm-hmm. We have good things inside of us. We just don't know when and where to say it. Yes. So I needed to learn how to use my talk to save lives because talk saves lives.
I love it. I love it. When you say talk save lives, I like to go a little deeper and say, words, the power of words. Because you know what? That's really what a good talk is. And that's exactly what we're having today. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation now. You're speaking on different stages. You're writing books. So you have a platform for yourself. How are you using your platform to help and to empower, inspire, and to transform people who are either hurting or going through a tough time in life?
Sure. So, people want to hear from people that's going through some things. We want to hear from that battle-tested, that wounded warrior. We want to hear from that person that still has a little bit of a scab, and we want to hear from that person sometimes. So I'm not embarrassed or ashamed. Oh, I was at one time. Yes. However, that will tell you the good and the bad. Right. Because we have to recognize that sometimes too much of a good thing is still not great for us. Right. So we can be living the dream life, the things that we've always wanted, we can still fail emotionally. Mm-hmm. So I teach people from the place of transparency. This is what happened to me. And if you can learn from it, great. If you can't, maybe you know someone else that can. Mm. So using my platform is to, one, create a place of safe talk. Mm-hmm. Share from a transparent place. So I'm not reading statistics and I'm not giving idea and theory from the internet and books. I'm talking from my spirit and soul. Right. And finally, it's to grow my personal network. I don't want to walk into your lives, share who I am, and walk away, you never hear from me. I connect with everyone and I make a way that we can stay connected. This world that we live in today, you have to be able to call out to like-minded people who've been through like situations. And it's important to me that I do that.
Okay. A very wise woman once says, the truth will set you free. So can we just sum up that you are freeing people?
And the first thing is to really, first of all, you have to help people identify. They'll say, well, that's not me. Well, that's not me. Oh, yeah, it's you. It's definitely you. You may not be ready to say it's you, but it's you. Like, for example, I can remember my first experience with domestic violence. Okay, I was married at the time, and I thought it was just a fight. But when I sat back and thought about it, I said, oh, I am a victim of domestic violence. But see, I didn't want to call it that because I didn't want to be associated with that.
Right.
So my truth wasn't in what really happened. My truth was, let me find an excuse for this, and maybe I can support why it's happening. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can justify it. But when you help people find out the truth, no, honey, you are being beaten. You are in a domestic violence situation. Here is your new title. Mm-hmm. When you help people see where they are, you know, when you're in the car and you're driving and it's raining, you know, and the rain just comes down really, really hard.
Right.
And the windshield wipers are going like this. You can't really see out unless it's clean in the window.
Correct.
So you have to be a windshield wiper for some people sometimes.
Yes.
And that's what I call myself. I like to come in and help them see what their truth is.
Wow. Now, and in your experience of helping people to, as I coin the phrase, free themselves from themselves for themselves, and so they can help other people. What is the feedback like when you help or when you speak to individuals or put on seminars or workshops? What is the feedback like?
So I can remember specifically the last few that I did. And people are surprised that I can get on stage and tell people, oh, yeah, that's me. I experienced that.
Right.
Instead of saying, the statistics say that 10 women will do this. People want to know. So what I hear mostly from women is, I never knew how to identify with myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, because we don't want to think that that's us. We want to remove ourselves from whatever bad tag that's out there, the stigma. We don't want to be associated with those names.
Yes.
But if we do, and we get to understand what they are, it's okay. It really is okay to be titled those things. That's how you will accept it and get help for it. So the other feedback that I get mostly from men is that they have never been taught to recognize their emotions. They put their emotions aside. We have to remember that men have feelings too. Mm-hmm. And they're dealing with grief. They're dealing with mental, I don't know if we want to say illness, because not every mental related situation is an illness. It could just be a breakdown. It could be a temporary situation, but they're not looked upon as strong when they admit those things. So I teach men to just do this. Identify what your issue is, then determine how your issue is going to affect everybody around you. When you start thinking about your wife, your children, your mother, your pastor, people that are in your circle, you will then want to become better. When we leave it for our men, our strong men, to have to figure out how they're going to do this on their own, they're not going to seek too much further past their responsibilities. They got to get up and still go to work. They have to still come home and be the father. They still have to be the disciplinarian, but they don't have time to heal from whatever that's going through in their hearts and minds. So when we teach them how to break it down into, this is why you need to get better, sort of like telling them why they need life insurance. The feedback from men is completely different from women. Men are just happy that they learn ways to communicate it. Women are just happy that they're not alone in communicating it.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you. If you see me writing, it's not because I'm distracted or anything like that, but I always walk with a pen because I believe that I'm a student of life, and I believe that information is going to come to you, and you have to take that time to write it down because there's so much that's coming in your brain, and if you don't use a pen to save and capture that moment, you will miss that moment forever. But you are saying so much information that's necessary, that's needed, and I'm going to start to dissect. So here we go. You talked on identifying the crisis, and when we don't identify the crisis, then we suffer from what's called identity crisis. If we don't identify that crisis, it becomes a crisis for us, right? And there are a lot of people who are hiding behind a crisis and don't want to get out from this crisis. One, because they're comfortable. Two, because they're afraid of what other people are going to say. Because as soon as you identify a crisis, there's a label that goes with that crisis, right? And it's almost like going into a store and you see a whole bunch of different groceries and foods and so many things that you go there to shop, though. That's your intention, right? Life, we're shopping our way. We're either picking up dreams. We're either shopping for the new goal. We are looking for the map that will lead us to destiny. Life is a shopping spree. However, if we see a product that doesn't have a label on it, we are going to take a step back because we don't know what's in the container. The same thing like us. We are this grandiose, amazing, fearfully and wonderfully created creation. And so we started looking at ourselves differently when the world puts a label on us. We say, no, that's not me. But what I love what you're saying is that we need to identify the crisis, put a name on that thing. I said, that's what that is. And, from a medical standpoint, it is called triage. When you go into the hospital, the nurses, they'll come in and ask you these particular questions, and then they'll put the cuffs on you. I'm talking about the one that checks your temperature, right? We don't do the triage as often as we need to. You understand what I'm saying? So, Miss Doctors, I'm listening to you, and you have so much to offer the world. I'm so glad you didn't pull the plug. I'm so glad that whatever spirit, I would like to think it's the spirit that created you that said, you know what, you got a lot more work to do. It ain't time for you to check out yet. Hold up, wait a minute. And that's when I look at that, when I hear that, it's like the divine stepped in and say, no, girl, no. You got work to do. So excited that you didn't pull the plug. You're here today. And I am telling you, the amount of people that you're going to reach, that you're going to transform, the world is going to be upside down. And so as we move forward, I know I went off on a rant there, but I sat here and I listened to you, and I'm just like, oh man, this is a great thing. This is divine stuff. We're having the right conversation that the average individual is not having, and they're screaming silently, and the world will never know. With that being said, the diagnoses. How do we start to diagnose that there's something wrong with us? Speak on that.
So the first thing is to determine that, and some people can't self-classify what's happening. It takes us to listen to our family members, our colleagues, our friends, and we have to take in what they're saying and apply it to us. They're not always right, but if you keep hearing the same question over and over, are you okay? Are you feeling all right? Are you tired? Why can't you join us? Why did you miss the meeting? When you start finding a pattern in the things that you normally, are up and up on, you have to really start slowing down and saying, I need to get some help, and you talk to someone about it. Remember, you cannot just talk to anybody because not everybody's equipped to handle the conversation and the diagnosis discussions that you need to have. So seeking help professionally is what I recommend for everybody. And these days, the privacy, HIPAA, they protect you. You can use your company's ERP plans. I think is that the employee resource. I'm not familiar exactly with the acronym, but there is a lot of opportunities for people to go and get this help confidentially. The other reason why I don't recommend someone try to self-diagnose is because we want to blame the most popular thing. Oh, it's because you're hiding underneath that. You're looking for an excuse not to have to get some therapy or not to have to address some layers that are really deep. Typically, when we hide from those things, those are the things that need the most help.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question from this perspective. I always call it the onion theory. And the onion theory simply means that we need to, as human beings, look in the mirror and start peeling away to get to the core of what causes that onion to let our eyes drip. Does that make sense? It's a metaphor for helping people to understand and identify, hey, something is not right. Let me address it. And so I use the onion metaphor to let people understand you need to sit in the mirror and put that onion as close as possible up to your face and then start peeling away. When you start peeling away, it's going to get to a point where tears are going to come down because the onion now is making you cry, right? And the onion basically is you getting closer and closer and closer to the heart of the issue of what's wrong with you. And when you get there and you just can't look in the mirror anymore because your eyes are well up with tears, and when you blink, something is going to happen. And if tears come down, you're now clear to go and call somebody and get help. You know, we are our brothers and sisters keeper, whether or not we look at it as a biblical truth or a life truth or a lifestyle. We are our brothers and sisters keeper. And I want to stress upon those who are listening right now. If you're listening to me for the first time, this is Andrew E. Guy with the ILIR-Podcast. Whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea, this is Andrew E. Guy in the MORNING. The podcast is dedicated for those who are on the go. People who want to transform their life and live the life that they've always dreamed of living. Not tomorrow, now. And so I am joined by my good friend. I mean, she's extremely smart, gifted, and diverse in all the expertise that she brings to the table in terms of counseling, in terms of her life experience and all the things that she has been through. I'm talking financial negotiation, working for the government department, negotiating contracts. I'm talking no other than Miss Corretta Leonnette. She is simply amazing, but a last name that says doctor, and doctor simply means she's a teacher. We're talking about the healing process. How do we get through the healing process to reclaim ourselves again? One of the things that she said, we got to classify the issue, know what the issues are, identify them, and be willing to speak to somebody about it. You can't self-diagnose yourself and say, yes, I know exactly what's wrong with me, because there's going to be some bias there in classifying the information. So we're going to jump back into this conversation right now with Miss Doctors. I'm telling you, just pull your chair up a little closer and turn off everything that you're watching or listening and only listen to what's happening right now. The information that she is going to give you is going to help you, or it's going to use you as a resource to help those around you. All right. So, Miss Doctors, I want to talk a little bit about what are people looking for nowadays? They're out there on social media. They're everywhere. I mean, they can't get to travel as much because they got on a mask. So everyone is not just hiding behind a mask, they're actually wearing a mask. And I say that to say this, that people don't really care about how many friends you have on Facebook or social media. People don't care what your picture look like. What I believe people care about is, what is your story? What have you been through? What battle scars do you have? And how did you overcome? What caused you not to give up? That's what people are looking for. Can you speak to that?
Sure, absolutely. People are looking for an audience, whether it's, they want to have their voice heard, okay? Now, what they say is a different thing. You have to be able to discern. When someone comes to you and you hear them talking, listen not only at what they say, but how they're saying. If they're asking questions, if they're looking for confirmation and affirmation, they want to know, is this the right thing? What do you think about this? They're asking you because they're confused. They're lost. They need help. They need some guidance. And the world, the way that it is right now, men and women have so much on them that it can become confusing. Yes. When you have someone that's dealing with an internal situation, one that they never thought they'd ever have to face. Now they're pushed into these corners at home and they have all this free time, and so this inner onion is starting to seep through. You know how when you have an onion that you don't peel and you sit it down on the counter and it's hot and it's to go bad, it starts seeping through. That's what's happening. We don't have to tell them to sit and peel back, because what's happening. And so with all this extra time on our hands and with us having the opportunity to take a deeper look into people that are close to us.
Yes.
We're having the opportunity to take a deeper look at people that are far away. We're looking closely at them now. So given all of those things that's happening, I believe that taking this opportunity to see, when you see someone going live and they're telling their story, there's something going on. And if you are in a position to help them, you do so. But if you know you can't add value to someone that's hurting and someone that's crying out for help, it's best that you step back. Don't confuse them. Don't add to it just because you say, well, I can identify with that, but are you in a position to help?
Yes.
I know what that's like to go through it, but are you in a position to help? You have to know when they need help, when they need congregation, or when they just simply need nothing.
Okay.
Not everybody is ready. They may not be able to take it right then. Mm-hmm. So you have to use some good discernment. When you hear people crying out for help, you may need to step back and say, I'm not the one to give them this. Let me refer them to someone. The worst thing that someone can do is give the wrong advice.
Mm-hmm. I love what you're saying, that I think the key to this healing process that we're talking about is not only that we shouldn't self-diagnose ourselves, because then we'll be living a lie, but it's also to listen. I always say that listening is not the same thing as hearing. Hearing is just a physiological response by the auditory nerves that allows you to hear molecules being disturbed around you, right? From a biological perspective. Listening is a skill of those who have a desire to help someone else. And so that's what's ringing out to me right now. Now, I know when we're in the green room, we talk a little bit about, some of your experiences and how you're using your platform to help those who are hurting. I completely believe on some level, in some area, at some point in time in our lives, we all experience hurt. How I experience hurt is different from how someone internalized hurt. I always say that there are 3 steps. I said that there's a point of injury, just when it just happened, right? And then there's a point of pain. That's when the nerve, when it registers to you that this thing has happened or is happening to you. So point of injury, and then the pain, when it sets in like, oh, this is actually happening. And then the part that really gets most people is trauma, because trauma is long after the point of contact, and then long after the pain. Then there is another feeling, a set of emotion, a set of unrest that we go through, and we call that trauma. I love what you say. Trauma is simply trauma. You can't spell it no other way. It is what it is. And for a lot of people, this trauma is happening up here. Can you help our audience understand the realism of what trauma really is, and what levels, how it can differentiate itself in different individuals? So what is trauma? How do we identify it?
So, here's the thing. Trauma is not just how we respond to pain. Right. Trauma is unresolved pain.
Oh, I love it.
And we can sit back and just fight whatever these demons are built up inside of us.
Yes.
And that becomes trauma. The traumatic experience is the response to the pain. Okay? It's what we deal with after the pain. Mm-hmm. Whether we anticipate it or not, whether it shows itself in various forms such as anger, such as such as destruction, self-destruction, or destruction of others. So what trauma means these days is the reaction, not the action. It's the reaction. Okay, when you're in an accident, you get injured. Then your body goes into a traumatic shock. Mm-hmm. It's the reaction. So focusing on where you are and understanding what you need to do before you allow the trauma to set in is key. It is important. It's how you're going to respond. You cannot always control pain or hurt. Yes. Those are things that can be put on you, right? Now, trauma can come in various forms. Some of us, we may not even know how to identify what trauma is until it's too late. Traumatic experiences come in tiers. They come in, unfortunately, death. We can't handle it. We think the only way to bear this trauma is to end our lives. But that's not always going to be what we should see happening. If we take the time to help people mitigate their pain, mitigate their hurt, then we can try to alleviate the trauma that comes later. Unresolved trauma continues to build, and it continues to grow and manifest itself in different ways. It may go away in one way. You may say, well, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself, but it may come back in a different form. You are now very abusive, or you're now a very angry person, and everywhere you go, you spread that bad emotion and spirit of anger.
Yes.
That's their trauma. The response to trauma needs to be dealt with case by case, and it also needs to be dealt with in a general way. Teach people how to mitigate the things to help them avoid traumatic experiences down the road.
Oh, this is good conversation. People, listen to me. This is Andrew E. Guy. I'm telling you, I am so excited right now. I am thrilled right now. I feel like I'm learning. I'm a big sponge. You know how I get when the conversation gets so thick? I pop out the pen and the pen starts to talk to the paper. I mean, this is great information. This is why we bring great guests to ILIRPODCAST, because guess what? I'm listening. I'm ready. I'm so ready for the people who are going to listen and get ready to transform their life. If you're hurting, if you've been through a traumatic experience, this is the video for you. This is the show for you. This is the moment for you. This is your time. Don't put this off. Find help. Wherever you can get help, find the help. Because I always believe that anyone who seek, they will always find. But here's what I want to let you know. Don't just find the first thing or pick up the first thing that comes to you. That may be a distraction. Know what you're looking for and know how to get the help. The conversation here with Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor has been transforming for me. And the reason why I say that is because I have had the opportunity to deal with youth who are suicidal. It's something that we take for granted. It's just this silent killer. No one is really talking as much anymore. And I'm going to say that they're not having the right conversation, Miss Corretta. They're not having the right conversation. They're having this paint job conversation where they want to get a can, shake it up. And they shake it up to get everything confused, and then they start to spray. When they spray, basically that's a smoke screen to not let you see exactly what's going on. I like to speak in metaphor because my conversations are deeper than the surface will see. But an individual like yourself, you're shaking your head because we are clicking. You are right on this, and I know what's happening. So I want to go a little deeper. I'm going to read a little bit up your bio because I want people to understand who I'm talking with today. I want people to understand that you come to help individuals who are hurting, people who are in traumatic or experience traumatic experiences. You are trying to free some people. You are trying to let them see that, listen, there is a way out. And pulling the plug, that's not the way out. I love what you say. And while you were speaking, I said that this trauma is like a big elephant in the room, Miss Corretta. And people like you and I are the knives, because I tell people, I said, the Lord used me in 3 ways. He said, I'm a knife, a fork, and a spoon. It's like, Andrew, what are you talking about, right? I said, well, I'm a knife because if you got a big problem, I take your big problem and I cut them up into small, manageable pieces, right? I am the motivator. I am going to push you because I'm also a personal trainer, right? And I'm going to push you until you hate me. That's the fork. And I'm poking you. I'm saying, keep going. I'm going to push you to your wit's end. But when you get to the end and you feel like you just can't go anymore, then come the spoon. And I will scoop you up with compassion and say, listen, start again. You can do it. And that's me in a nutshell. All right. I'm going to read a little bit of your bio and get people to understand who I'm dealing with, the caliber of individual that I am speaking to, the greatness that's behind your name. And ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to me for the first time, I am speaking with Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor. She's a professional public speaker and author, a disabled U.S. Army veteran, a business strategist, and 29-year career woman in the field of government and commercial contracts. Miss Corretta graduated from Wade Hampton High School in Hampton, South Carolina in 1988. Joining the United States Army in 1991, she enrolled in college and earned a college degree in accounting and a second degree in business management, and is set to receive her third college degree in international business. Ms. Corretta is a master negotiator and a business coach. Socially, she is a people whisperer, creating strong business connection and instituting a culture of positive team building and esprit to in all her endeavor. Could you explain that part, the esprit de corps?
Esprit de corps, it just means that we pull them together. We make forces of friendliness. We make a foundation of people that want to do the right thing all the time.
I love it.
And
you said want to do it.
Yes, they want to do it, and they want to do it right, and they want to do it with empathy. And that's very important in these days and times that we're living.
Yes, ma'am. And I like this, the fact that you said it's like it has to be a desire. I have to want this thing. I can't just say, oh, I'm going to do good. You got to want to do good all the time. I call this in one of my presentations I did. I said, don't strive to do good, because if you do something good, then there's always going to be better. And then if you do better, there's always going to be somebody's going to try to outdo and say they are the best. But if you do the right thing, there's no righter in the world. Don't matter where you go, right is always right, so long as you're living on planet Earth. All right, we're going to continue the conversation here a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit about some of your principles and some of your methodologies. You talked about when you're speaking, you talk on mental health, talk about business development and the power of influence. Could you speak to the people and tell them what, in your own words, what influence really is? Because a lot of us, we got this wrong. Could you tell us what influence really is? Go ahead.
So influence does not mean that you have to be a celebrity by today's social standards. Influence means that you have the positive. I'd like to say that, because you can have negative influence, but we don't want to focus on it. Right. You have positive tendencies that can help someone make a decision that will put them on the path to righteousness.
Right.
So utilizing your personal influence, whatever that may be, to help someone grow in their endeavors.
So in terms of your platform, how do you see influence demonstrated on a day-to-day entrepreneurial perspective? How do you see this influence demonstrated? Are people doing the right thing as far as influence is concerned, or are they misusing their influence to take advantage of other people?
I've seen it both ways, but I've seen it more for the positive. Yes. I have seen people stand up and they start with their beginning story and they show their ending story. And to me, that's a story of positive influence. That's where you show someone that if you can do it and you did it, not only that you can do it and that you did it, but how.
Yes.
Because if someone believes that they have the power to do something, then they will be influenced to do it. So it's a matter of teaching. It's showing the lesson. I'm going to show you how to make $1,000. I need 1,000 people to send me $1. That doesn't work anymore. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to give you the steps necessary, where the resources are, and then I'm going to come back and check to ensure that you learn the lesson that I was teaching. Because I could fail you if I'm teaching you wrong.
Right.
But I can definitely mature you and put you on the right track if I come back and I check to ensure that what I taught you, you learn. So I could be teaching you how to live your best life. I could be teaching you how to create a life that others will view as being the best life. It depends on where you are in life. So I believe that the power of influence is more than talking. It's showing.
I love it.
It's helping them get from point A to point B. You show someone, you tell them, you come back and you check. You make sure that they were able to learn and follow those steps. Because, every teacher thinks that they can teach, but maybe they can't. Maybe it doesn't apply to every student. When the teacher appears, the student will show up. That's not always the case.
No, ma'am.
The student could be there, but maybe the lesson is seeing past each other.
That's correct.
Oh, I'm great, so do what I say. No, it's I'm great. Here's why I'm great. Here's how you can be great. Now, let me see. Did you pick up on that lesson? I can tell you all day long why I didn't kill myself. It's not going to save you.
I love it. You know what I gathered from what you're saying? I was speaking to a bunch of high school kids. I shouldn't call them kids. I would say future men and women. And I spoke to them on the topic of mentorship, because that's what the school had brought me in to speak on. People don't really need a mentor anymore. And the principal was kind of shocked, but I said, that's what we brought you in to speak about. I said, ma'am, I really don't think that's what these children need. I don't think that's what these young men and women need. She said, but they're just students. I said, no. If you're looking at them as just a student, then you're missing the future, because they are the future. They are men and women, just in a small version, right? I said, they don't need mentor, Miss Corretta. I said, what they need is what's called a Sherpa. No, a Sherpa, basically, if you ever been to Tibet, I have not before, but there's a guide that takes you up the mountain. For those guys who climb Mount Everest and all those different places, there's what's called a Sherpa. A Sherpa is one that goes before you. And people are not as interested in what you look at or what you look like. They're caring about the how. And that's exactly what you're saying. So a Sherpa basically shows you the how. How did I make this happen? How did I get there? And this is what I want you to do. When I step here, you step here. If you step on a rock that I didn't say step on, good night. It's your last step. So a Sherpa I think, is what we really need in society right now. Somebody who's not just going to hold our hands, but they're going to hold us accountable. Not holding hands, but hold you accountable to making sure that you're following the steps that you say you want to get to this point of destiny. I'm excited about our conversation here. I want to speak a little bit on this part of healing. I know we talked briefly about it, but the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we spoke earlier on, and you said that you have been through some tough times yourself, and you basically experienced some traumatic experience while you were in the Army. Can you share a little bit about that? Reason why I'm asking that is because there are other people that are hurting too. There are other people that have been through similar situations, and they're screaming silently, and they don't know where to go. They don't know who to ask. So when I ask this question, it's not really to be inquisitive in your business, as our people would say, you all up in my business. That's not really what I'm trying to do. But it's to help you to take your experience, which is your business, and help another person. So can we talk about this traumatic experience that you had when you were in the Army? And there could be other females that are in there that are experiencing. How can you help them? Go ahead.
Right. So, my trauma goes back to what I said, unresolved pain. Yes, unresolved pain will lead to trauma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As a small child, I was placed in many situations where I dealt with sexual trauma. Okay. And as a child, it was never talked about. It was never discussed. It was never nothing. It just lived inside me. Okay. When I had the opportunity to talk about it, I was afraid. I didn't know how to. So I went through my teenage years. I went into my early 20s, and then I went in the military, and then I was faced yet again with sexual trauma. This time it's categorized a little differently because I am now a soldier in the United States Army. So therefore it's I was in my 20s, and because I had this unresolved childhood sexual trauma issue going on, I felt like I was supposed to have this adult trauma as well. I felt like this is what was supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to talk about it. However, fast forward 20 years, I wrote a book. And in my book, I talked about my military sexual trauma and how it had damaged me as an adult, as a married woman. It had taken away so much of my self-esteem. And I was finally tired of it. I was tired of the trauma that I had been allowing to grow inside me for decades. And at this point, it didn't matter who believed me and who didn't believe me. When I put that pen to that paper and I let it roll through my arm and onto that paper and out of my head and out of my heart, I was ready to face it. I was ready to deal with it. I didn't have to ask for help. When the military found out about this and my story became a public story, and there was years of investigating. Just last year, 2019, I was granted a disability in terms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as a military sexual trauma at the rate of 70% disability. So I say that to say this. I didn't have to whine about it. I didn't have to cry about it. I didn't have to do anything that you would think I had to do. I simply had to sit down and face it. I had to sit down and tell the story. I had to tell what happened. It didn't matter who believed me and who didn't believe me. When I told my story, I told it from a place of, I'm tired and I don't want another person to ever have to deal with this.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I was able to do that, and I could do it freely, I had to go through so many evaluations and psychological testing, and I had to answer the same question time and time and time again. It didn't matter, because every time I opened my mouth to talk, I became freer and freer and freer. And finally, I can smile and talk about it. I can smile and talk about it because someone took accountability for what happened to me. Finally, I may not be able to go back to when I was 5 years old. I may not be able to go back to when I was 20, but I can assure you that today at 50, I don't feel like I deserve sexual trauma from the military, any family member, from anybody. I feel today that my wrongs have been made right, and I have now accepted that accountability has been made on the part of the military, and I have accepted that.
Do you think there are other ladies that are or have experienced what you have experienced in the military?
And they probably have, and they're probably making an excuse for why it happened to them. They're probably saying it's because when I was a child, this happened to me. Or they're saying it's because I was lonely and it happened to me. Or they're giving themselves a lot of reasons. But the fact of the matter is right and wrong is wrong. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Deal with your wrong with you and who you are accountable for. But when wrong is done to you, it needs to be made right, or you will carry that trauma into generations and generations of being wrong. You will teach those that are in your circle that you accepted wrong. But when you accept it and fix it, you teach people to know this is not how things are supposed to be, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make things right.
You know, I'm writing here because I hear there's so much things that you're saying right now that I think the world needs to know. And one of these things are childhood pain does not make it okay for you to live an adult life full of trauma. I'll say it again. Childhood pain does not give you the permission to live a life of trauma in your adulthood. The quicker you fix it, the better your life will be. And as we talked previously, we said that all of this is like an onion. Your life is like an onion, and your goal is to sit in the mirror and face the issues and start peeling away. And the more you peel away at this onion, you're digging deeper and you're going deeper. You're removing another level of pain. And the more of the pain that you reveal, it does not end up becoming a traumatic experience. And I just actually love what you're saying, that the stuff that we don't deal with in our childhood end up become the stuff that we have to deal with in our adulthood. A great speaker once said, if you pay today, then you can play later. But if you play now, in your childhood, your adulthood is going to be one where you're going to end up paying for the rest of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking with Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor. And the conversation is for one who have been hurt, for those who need to get out from underneath this pain, who need to free themselves from this trauma, the ones who have been hurt before, who have had a point of injury, a point of contact, and then there is still pain. And I want to say this, when pain happens, it gets smaller and smaller as time goes by. It gets weakened. The strength of pain gets weakened over time. But unlike trauma, trauma is the reverse. Trauma gets, if it's not dealt with, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time, until you get to a point where you just cannot handle it, and you feel like you just want to pull the plug, and you feel like you're the only one that's going through this. You feel like there's nothing you can do, and I deserve this, and you start to blame yourself. I want to let you know today that if you're hurting, if there's something that has happened in your past, find someone to talk with, not to, with, because with means that person is with you, listening to you, and not judging you for what has happened. My goodness. Now, Ms. Corretta, there's a few questions that I wanted to talk about in terms of this interview. We've already dug into the meat of everything and really trying to help those who are hurting to come to the forefront and find somebody. And even if they want to connect with you, they can find you. I know they can find you at CorettaDoctors.com. I just want to just throw that out there right now, that if you're listening to this ILIR-podcast with Andrew E. Guy and Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctors, you can reach her directly at our website, and it is CorettaDoctors.com. This is a woman that has been through some stuff, and I want to let you know that the good book says they are overcome by the words of their testimony. And a testimony means that it's a money that was tested. That means you can now, you have a currency that was tested. And guess what happened? It gets better over time. Inflation didn't kill your money, but it gets better and it has a greater value. And then when it's released on the time, when it's ready to be released for those who are ready to receive it, it would be priceless. Testimony has a value that is priceless, and when it's delivered and sold in the hearts of men, it's going to transform their living. I'm so excited. Ms. Corretta, how do you normally start your day? What's your day like? When you get up in the morning, what's a typical Ms. Corretta a day look like? What does that look like?
You know, so after I do my personal hygiene, which is very important to me, I think that the next thing I do is I really want to pray. Amen. You know, some people say, well, I pray right when I open my eyes. I tell you one thing, I feel like I have to have a clean mouth, a clean face, and then I pray. And that is just, that's it. If nothing else happens, that sets the tone for my day. Now, I sit back and I think about what I really do every day. After that, my real day, I guess like my Monday through Friday day, is I'm always concerned about the next person. Wow. What did I not do? What did I forget? Is there anything that I'm missing that I owe somebody? That's the first thing. Wow. Then I get to my to-do list. At night, I write down what I need to do the next day. So I get to my to-do list, and I make sure that I'm covering others first. I know how to prioritize based on the needs of others, because I'm in the business of service, and service means to serve. Yes. And everything I do, my livelihood is based on my work. So then something I've started doing lately is I have to take naps. I have to really rest. whether it's not laying down in a bed, but it may just be to pause, put my head down for a moment, because this world is so overwhelming that my typical day is not what it used to be. Sometimes I have to go back and wash my face again and pray again and then start again. I come from a background where I used to watch the man who raised me. He would wash his hands. He was Muslim, so he would wash his hands and face before he would pray. And so I got into a habit of saying that you come before, to present your prayer in cleanliness. And so sometimes I get involved in so much back and forth with this business that I feel dirty, and I walk away from it and come back. So my day goes through, I go through emotions a lot during the day. So by the end of the day, I cut it off. I have learned that I no longer need my phone in the bed with me. I no longer need my iPad. I have learned to cut it off. And it all comes down to two things: being accountable and being responsible. If you can be those two things, then you don't have to stick to a phone all day long and checking an email all day long. And it has helped me with my mental wellness. I can have a period of time where I no longer have to be stressed out about what isn't. I am now focused on what is. Because if I know what is, I don't have to worry about what isn't. And having that's healthy for me, and it's healthy for people around me too. I'm much more pleasant because I have balance that I'm in control of. And, like when we first got on the phone, he said, just breathe. I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. I really am. Because I don't get out of sorts anymore. Oh, there was a time I would cry. I couldn't breathe. I had to call my secretary. But I've learned to put that healthy balance in my world, and it stays there.
I am so glad we got a chance to meet. I'm so glad we're on the phone talking. I'm so glad we're connecting. I just believe that there's so many people that's going to watch this and lives are going to be changed. I feel that this is divine. And I believe that you don't really have to be in a church building, so to speak, for you to receive healing. You don't have to have somebody come and lay hands on you and charge you just to lay hands on you for you to receive your healing. And I'm going to say this: if you are that individual that is listening and that is ready to make a change in your life, there is no better time than today. You want to sit in the mirror, just like Miss Corretta said. You want to put down the phone, get away from all the distraction, and have some me time. And that is just you and your creator and yourself. And I want you to dig up all the issues, get the onion ready, take off the outer shell, and then start peeling away. And yes, the tears are going to well up in your eyes. Yes, it's going to hurt. You're digging this up. You're tilling the soil, because what you want to do, you're going to start to sow some real seed. You want to sow some fruitful seed. You want to sow some seeds that, man, when the harvest comes through, you're going to be like the tree that is planted by the rivers of water. And it's going to bear much fruit. And not only is the fruit going to be amazing, you're going to have gigantic limbs that those who are tired and those who are out in the hot sun, always worrying and stressing about things, can come and sit underneath your branch and get some cool shade. I read a book Miss Corretta once talked about. It said The Giving Tree. Have you ever read that book? It's a children's book. But it's a tree that's always given. And this little boy comes and asks the tree for something, and he'll cut off a branch. And he said, I want to do this. Okay, give me this. He gave him the leaf. And then after a while, the tree is given everything that it's got. And the only thing that was left was the stump. And then the boy come one day and said, hey, I want to build a house. And he was asking for all of the different things. And the tree said, I have nothing else to give. Purpose of the story was to let them know that everything you already have was given to you. And so we need to be mindful. We need to take stock of what we have. And the next part of that story, which I internalized, was simply this: when you've given all you've got, you need to stop and say, listen, I don't have anything else to give right now. I need to recharge. And that's when you talk about putting down the phone. And that's when you talk about having some me time. Get up in the morning and pray. Get up in the morning and set your day. It's it's that coming to self and realizing you, the engine, has to be in the right place where you can transport somebody else somewhere. It's a metaphor. It means if you're not in tune, you can't drive anybody else anywhere. If you're in the service industry, if you're an entrepreneur, you really can't run a business if you're not well up here. You really can't serve others because they're coming with so much information, so much hurt, so much pain. And if you're not in the right place, like Ms. Corretta said, you not have the right mentality to listen, you cannot help. So if you can't help, instead of making it worse for them, leave them alone. All right, Ms. Corretta, I have 2 more questions, and then we're going to get into what's called Think, Fire, Shoot. And Think, Fire, Shoot is when you're on the hot seat. I get to ask you 4 questions. You got 15 seconds to answer these questions. And that's how we kind of wrap up our interview, right? So we wrap up on a high note. So you better bring your A game. Do you hear what I'm saying, young lady? All right. You on a hot chair. You're on a hot chair. We're going to ask 2 more questions. And then after, we're going to jump into our Think, Fire, Shoot. Success. What does success mean to you? How would you define success?
To me, success is achieving the goal that you set out for, not the goal that others set for you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And the other question is, what is your perspective on this? Most people get busy on the highway of living, looking in the rearview mirror instead of looking in the windshield ahead. Most people on the highway of living get preoccupied or busy looking in the rearview mirror as opposed to looking in the windshield ahead. Your thoughts?
That's that unresolved pain that they keep looking back because they're afraid it's going to catch up with them.
I love it.
You have to deal with anything back there that you think you need to keep looking. You only look back when it's a reason. So when you keep looking back there, it's something you need to fix. Fix it so you can leave it there. And so then you're not distracted. I'm telling you.
I absolutely love it. That was stupendous. That was amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to me for the first time, I know that we've gone over a 30-minute time or 45-minute time. The conversation is too rich. And I'm so glad that we're going to capture all of this and we're going to get it ready. We're going to send it out to you because I know that the people that are listening to this there's going to be some issues that gets resolved. And I always ask that question to my guests when they come on. I ask them about that same question. But what I get from this is that, from Ms. Corretta, is that you're looking in the rearview mirror because you're being chased by unresolved pain. And that's why you keep looking back. And you know what, Ms. Corretta? I feel like we as a people constantly look in the rearview mirror. We go back on, we look at this black and white stuff, the racial inequality. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not saying it's not present. I'm not saying systemic racism is not prevalent in the workplace, in the corporate America, corporate Canada, and corporate world. I am not saying that. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times we're looking so much in the rearview mirror that we can't even see our own future, how bright our future is. So we end up getting into accidents because we're busy steering backwards when we should be looking where we're going. I want to say, as a people of color, POC, your future is brighter than your dark skin. Your future is brighter. What we need to do is come together as a people, and we need to make sure we have our expertise in order, have our life in order, and so that we can use our skills, our gifts, and our talents to better each other. We're going to better the world, but I always believe that if somebody's drowning, you want to save yourself first and make sure you're a good swimmer before you go out and say that you're going to save someone else. A lot of us, Ms. Corretta, as a people of color, we're not in place. And I just so love it that you said that earlier on. If you're not in the position to help somebody, you need to leave them alone or go and fix yourself first before you can think about helping them. It's like a non-swimmer trying to save a drowning person. And that's exactly what's happening. This conversation is so powerful. I'm telling you, this is absolutely amazing. So I need you to start working on yourself first. Save you first. Go build up your swimming skills first before you try to save a drowning individual. All right? So stop looking in the rearview mirror. Stop wondering about what they did to you and what they did to me and what they did to Martin Luther King. And yes, it has happened. That gives you power to let you know that those people, they sacrificed so you can be here today. Now, my question to you is, what are you going to do with today for a better tomorrow? In hindsight of yesterday, what are you going to do with that?
Is that my question?
Oh, no, I'm asking the world. Are you listening? Are you ready? All right, so I'm excited. So, Ms. Corretta, it's time for Think, Fire, and Shoot. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So here's the first question. You have 4 questions, 15 seconds to answer them. Here we go. We're ready to rock and roll. The first question is, people say ... Go.
People say that they can't do it because they don't know how.
And that's powerful. It's not the what, it's not the who, it's the how. It's the how that matters. All right. Question number 2. Family, culture, beliefs. Go.
Family, culture, and belief. My family is very important to me. It is not based on culture, and my culture is important to me, but it definitely does not define my family. My belief is that family and culture can work together, but they do not have to. Your family is really a part of how you're going to mature and grow your generations to become a better culture.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, she took like 22.4 seconds. She's way over the 15-second limit, but that answer was credible. Did you hear me? That answer was credible. I didn't say incredible. It was credible. That is amazing right there. I hope you wrote that down. I told you, you better walk with your pen. When me and Miss Corretta get on this here microphone and the camera, you best be writing. And that's a Southern way of saying, you better be writing. You better be writing. All right, Miss Corretta. Number three. Are you ready? All right,
yes.
Here we go. Question number 3 says background, past, present, future. Go.
Background. Your background has everything to do with where you're going. Your past, fix it. Your present, enjoy it. Your future, prepare for it.
Listen, if you're listening to me for the first time, this is Andrew E. Guy in the MORNING. Welcome to ILIRPODCAST. Listen, if you got a problem with your past, you better fix it. And if you're in the present, enjoy it. And let me tell you about the future. You best prepare. Oh my God.
Because your background ain't got too much to do with none of that.
I'm telling you, listen, it's too much fun to have on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you need to tune in. You need to go subscribe. Get over there, run over there, jump over there, subscribe. Myself and Miss Corretta is bringing it today. All right, Miss Corretta, I got the last one. Are you ready for the last one?
Oh, well, 10 more. Go ahead.
All right, ready for the last one. And the last one says determination, will, guts, obstacle, setup, setbacks, so what? It was meant to be that long. I say it again. Determination, will, guts, obstacles, setups, and setbacks. So what? Go.
Okay, so the first 3, you need all of that to deal with the last 3. And the last one, the 7th one, the so what? So what? If you have some determination and will, it's going to prepare you for your setups and all those setbacks. It's going to get you there. So what? You don't have to answer to anybody when you are planning and framing your own future. Only yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, I completely hope that you were listening, and I hope you were ready, because me, Andrew E. Guy, and Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor just brought the goodness. We just brought the goodness to you. I hope that you was listening. And that's a Southern way of saying I hope you was listening. I'm telling you, I hope you were listening, and I hope you're ready, because I'm telling you, The chicken is cooked. I'm telling you, I will take it out the oven and it's now ready to share. I'm excited about this conversation. Now, I'm going to finish up and I'm going to read the rest of Miss Doctor's bio to let you know who we are talking with. This is an amazing young lady. And I say young lady because I don't see age. I see a spirit that's willing and ready to change the world by using all of the setbacks so she can build a bigger setup. So then guess what? It don't matter who asks. So what? I'm doing it. All right. So let me talk to you a little bit about her. So Miss Corretta is a master negotiator and business coach. Socially, she is the people whisperer. And I'm going to jump down to the most important part right here. All of it is important, but she is the founder of Communique magazine. Now, she had to teach me how to say that word because, you know, I was saying communique or something like that. And she said, no, it's communique, sir. And I said, yes, ma'am. I stand corrected. Thank you so much. And she's going to explain what communique is because I want her to let you know what that is. All right. So communique. So she is the founder of Communique magazine, an international publication launched in summer of 22. If you want to find her, if you want to have coaching sessions with her, I'm going to give her this opportunity now. I'm going to be quiet and she is going to take it away. She's going to tell you where you can find her, if she has any products, if she has any books, whatever she has. This is her time. Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor, take it away. Go.
Thank you. I so much enjoyed today. This has been absolutely wonderful. And it's nothing better than being able to speak directly to folks from your heart to theirs without all of those statistics and theory and all that. So this has been wonderful. My website address is simply my first and last name, Corretta, CORRETTADOCTOR.com, CorrettaDoctor.com. Magazine is Communique magazine. We are a fun magazine with articles that are directly relatable to any and everybody. We don't have any gossip. We're not an opinion factory. None of that. We tell people stories from their heart to their soul that can mean something to you. Maybe there's something that will encourage and inspire you to do something, say something, be something more. Communique is spelled COMMUNIQUE. Magazine, CommuniqueMagazine.com.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got time for this week on this episode of ILIRPODCAST. I'm listening. I'm ready with your host, Andrew E. Guy. And remember always, this podcast is dedicated for those who are on the go, whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea. That's right. This is me, Andrew E. Guy. So I want to thank my guest, Miss Corretta Leonnette Doctor, for her time and anything that we can do over here at ILIRPODCAST to help get the word out about trauma and getting over it. And remember, past, present, future, fix it, enjoy it, prepare for it. That's powerful. I'm going to have to quote you on that one of these days. I'm telling you, moving forward. I'm telling you right now, when you hear me say this stuff or post anything out there, I'm putting your name on that thing right there. I know that's right. So, Miss Doctors, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can work together again in the future, because I'm looking about doing a panel discussion and bringing on some credible, I didn't say incredible, because in front of a word means not. So I'm looking to bring some credible people, and I hope that you keep your phone ringing, because I will be reaching out to let you know when the time is going to be. All right?
Anytime. I'd love to see you on the pages of that Communique magazine.
You know what? I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. And so I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for hanging out. And man, the information is rich. I can't wait to send this to the studio and get the boys to work on this so we can get this out there. This is needed right now.
Thank you. I'm listening and I'm ready.
I love it. Have you have a fantastic day, okay?
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this episode of ILIRPODCAST. I'm listening. I am ready. It is a podcast that is dedicated for those who are on the go. Whether you're traveling by land, air, or sea, this is me, Andrew E. Guy, in the MORNING. You take care of yourself, and we see you again next time. Until next time, keep listening, live ready, talk soon.